Your ancestors are living in your nervous system. Your ancestors are residing within your bones and within your blood and within your root. And all of that is playing a part in who you are, who you're becoming. And the more we attune ourselves to the ancestors, the more we can walk a stronger path forward. Because the ancestors have walked these paths. The ancestors have wisdom to tell us. The ancestors have healing that perhaps you're the one on the line to bring that healing to the ancestral lineage. And for many, right, especially here in the UK, where we're really rooted in, paganism, Celtic traditions, a lot of that has been lost. So people tend to be quite detached in the Western society with the ways of their ancestors. You might be someone who is very highly spiritual, but you have been practicing lots of other ancestral practices of different lands, different traditions, different cultures from around the world, which is beautiful. And we also find a lot of the time there's so many different similarities, which is why we can often be drawn to certain ones, because they activate certain memories within us, and maybe past lives in different timelines and different times when we've lived in different parts of the world. So there's no wrong or right when we're doing this. But I love to invite you to really tune in to what your ancestors want to show you and teach you and guide you. Because when we work through this, we start to recalibrate ourselves in a way that nurtures the wisdom of the ancestors, rather than playing out just so subconsciously in the programs that maybe are not serving us. And where I said about the nervous system, if our ancestors have gone through a lot of war, a lot of betrayal, I spoke in previous videos about women who have been through ancestral witch hunts, in other times. This can still even play out in whatever body that you are inhibiting, right? These things actually just live through in our family ancestral line. And so the nervous system can always feel this sense of ease and disposition, because when we are born, our parents, again, they're holding that nervous system. When they're holding us, we are trying to discover what is going on in the world when we're babies, how to perceive our reality in the world. So we are going to mimic and feel and sense and mirror the nervous systems of those around us. And they have obviously done that time and time again. There'll be other things, environmental factors at play as well. But of course, we don't want to be operating from that subconscious nervous system that is potentially in fight, flight, and freeze. We want to feel like we can actually understand our nervous system and sense of direction, because the nervous system is the central channel in which the pillar of light, the pillar of our soul, where our essence and our frequency can move freely through our bodies. So if we are blocked from the root chakra, blocked away, that lower energy, that earth energy, blocking ourselves from the wisdom of the land, the ancestors that we walk upon the land with. Maybe we don't live on our ancient ancestral land. Maybe we moved, our parents or beyond that have moved from different lands. So how can we connect in very deeply into our being and our body to really bring that essence? It's something that I've noticed when I've gone traveling, is people who have been rooted in their ancestral lands and who have walked that path, and the ancestral lineage hasn't really been broken, right? So Bali, And Indonesia is one really beautiful place to example this, because the lines usually also, the ancestry all tend to live in, their own little complex, and, everyone kind of lives together and they grow up that way. And all of these traditions are very much there, and there's always, the ceremonies have been going on and on and on for centuries, undisturbed pretty much, right? And feel free from anyone who lives there to call me out on that if that's not correct, but this is what I had seen, and the things we had discussed with certain people who lived in the areas that I was staying in. And I was like, wow, people really feel so deeply connected to the land as well. Like, I can feel that in their bodies. I can feel their lineage support, and there's the strength behind them, because of, that there was that structure there where everyone was held and supported, right? And in these particular dynamics where the household was very stable, and these families. But the thing is that when we look at, say, in England, for example, people move around, people have come from all places. I mean, I've got so many different family lineages, like really, really, like all over the place, right? And so it's like we can feel a little bit fragmented from that, because it's like, oh, I want to connect to this part of my ancestry and this part of my ancestry, and you think who am I? I'm all these parts. And it's a beautiful thing, because you're like a mandala of many colors and shapes, and all these different cultural wisdom all there on the mandala. And we can be that central pillar, that central little diamond light even in the pillar that connects and weaves us all together. So it's great to be able to do that, and to channel that in, and really hone in that energy. And there may be particular energies at this time for you, for maybe your siblings, maybe attuned to more one energy than other energies. But through, I feel, the body mostly, when we start to connect our body into the land, into the grids of the earth, and to channel into where we have been before, whether that's going to these places or meditating and tuning into certain places. So, if you've got Irish family or Portuguese like myself, like, I've got these different lineages, but I've been to Portugal many times, but I haven't been to Ireland, interestingly. But I can tune in and I can meditate with Ireland, and I can activate some of this wisdom from these lands in other ways as well. And that for me feels like it's my way of becoming more whole to myself, because I think so often a lot of people feel fragmented and feel separate and feel separate from the whole, but it's very much also rooted in that fact that the way that we live in today's society kind of conditions us to feel that. And there's always this fight and flight and sort of fret, because we haven't got that deep sense of holding in our ancestry. So one of the things I think is very important is when we start to reclaim our ancestry, right? Reclaim that wisdom and that connection, whether that's connecting with like one or two ancestors or more who can start to be your allies with you on your path. And what we can also do, and they don't have to be ones that are just like 3 to 5 generations along. It could be like ancient ancestry. You can also find yourself connecting into the land, specifically working with the land, because I feel that works through the body, helps the body to recalibrate, and it's really calming on the nervous system. Not just even just at that putting your feet on the ground, but really getting to know the frequency, the being of the land. They are giants, they are ancient beings that that hold the different grid systems and look after the energies here. And when we start to commune with them and wake up that connection, then we're a lot more held with the earth, you know. And you can do this with places that you are not necessarily ancestrally connected with. You know, if you was to go somewhere, it is always good to connect with them and say, hey, like, I'm here, and you know, I'm going to be doing this, and I feel like I'm here for this or that reason or whatever. And they might give you permission, or they might say no, or they just might guide you and help you along the way if you want to experience certain things on the land, you know. But I think that that's a really important part, that we become more intrinsically a part of that. And that to me is a very ancestral way of being with land, with our natural world, and the innate nature within us then starts to harmonize and balance, because without that we can then feel very lost in this world overall, because the world is living in little houses, everyone's all separate, everyone's looking and communicating through the phones, you know. It's not the same as really touching into the frequencies and having that communion with that more unseen, subtle communicational realms. So I'm just wanting to bring that invitation, because for me, this is where I feel the most activated and alive and true to myself, you know. When I started to really allow myself to commune with the land, I then felt like the rest of the world felt more in coherence and oneness. Like I feel more coherent and oneness with the whole and the beloved and all that is, all of creation. I start to feel that harmony, but it starts in that root, you know. It's really about rooting into where we are now, and then we're allowed to go and kind of go beyond and feel very integrated with that. Because even previously, I feel like I've spent a lot more time being more etheric and connecting with star family and star beings, which is really beautiful, and that's very ancient lineage in itself. But yet that can sometimes feel fragmenting if we haven't fully anchored in here. So a lot of my path really came in to play when I started to anchor into that ancestral lineage, connecting into the earth, connecting into those roots, and then combining and merging that. So that's like heaven on earth coming together, working coherently together, and that's where we start to feel more harmonious. So if you're feeling that in your body, you're feeling a little bit disconnected, you're feeling a little bit unsure of how to make these connections, I do invite you to join the soul codes underneath and start to really connecting with your soul energy. Start to build that intuition in your body, in your sphere, and then you'll be able to open up even more with your ancestry.